We're only 1,000 subscribers away from unlocking a secret reward. Be the reason it happens faster. The snow was falling hard that night. I remember because I had just poured myself a cup of coffee, sat down in my quiet living room, and turned on the Christmas lights on my small tree. It was Christmas Eve. I was alone, like I had been every year since my husband passed. But that year, being alone felt peaceful. Until I heard the knock. It wasn't a normal knock. It was frantic, desperate, the kind of knock that makes your heart drop before you even open the door. I opened it, and there she was. My daughter, Emily, standing in the freezing cold, no coat, holding her 3-year-old daughter wrapped in a thin blanket. Emily's lips were blue. Her eyes were red from crying. Snow covered her hair like she had been standing outside for a long time before she found the courage to knock. "Mom," she whispered. "He chose his mistress. His mother threw us out." I didn't ask a single question. I didn't need to. 22 years in the United States Army teaches you one thing above everything else. When someone needs help, you act first, you process later. I pulled them both inside, wrapped them in every blanket I owned, and made hot chocolate with hands that were shaking with rage, not cold. My granddaughter, little Sophie, fell asleep in my arms within minutes, exhausted from the fear she never should have felt on a night meant for magic and warmth. But as I sat there, holding my grandchild, watching my daughter break down in a way I had never seen before, something inside me shifted. This wasn't sadness anymore. This was war. And I knew exactly how to fight one. Let me tell you who I am so you understand what happened next. My name is Diane Anderson, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Army, currently serving as a battalion commander. I have led soldiers through deployments most people can't imagine. I have made decisions under pressure that determined whether people came home to their families or not. I do not panic. I do not make threats I can't keep. And I never, ever let someone hurt my family and walk away clean. Emily married a man named Brandon 4 years ago. I never fully trusted him, but I kept my doubts to myself because Emily loved him, and love makes people blind sometimes, even smart, strong women like my daughter. Brandon came from money. His mother, Patricia, made sure everyone knew it. She controlled the family business, controlled Brandon, and from the very beginning, she made it clear that Emily wasn't good enough for her son. I stayed quiet. I supported my daughter from a distance, sent birthday cards, video called every week, and prayed that I was wrong about Brandon. I wasn't wrong. Over the past year, Emily told me things had changed. Brandon worked late more often. He grew distant, cold. And then Emily found messages on his phone. Messages to a woman named Vanessa, someone from his office, someone he had been seeing for 8 months. When Emily confronted him, he didn't apologize. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He simply said the marriage was already over and that he was finally happy with someone else. And when Emily turned to his mother for support, hoping for compassion, Patricia looked at her granddaughter, looked at Emily, and said the coldest words a grandmother could ever say. "This isn't your home anymore. Take your daughter and go." On Christmas Eve, in the freezing cold, with a toddler, that's the family my daughter had trusted. That's the family that decided a 3-year-old girl didn't deserve shelter on the most important night of the year. That night, after Emily and Sophie finally fell asleep in my guest room, I sat alone at my kitchen table. No anger on my face. No tears. Just calculation. People think revenge is loud. It's not. Real revenge, the kind that actually works, is quiet. It's patient. It studies the enemy before it ever strikes. I opened my laptop and started making calls. Yes, on Christmas Eve at midnight, because some of the people I trained with over the years don't sleep either, and they owe me favors that go back farther than most marriages last. My first call was to my old friend, James, a retired Army JAG officer, now one of the sharpest family law attorneys in the state. I explained everything calmly, like a briefing. He listened, and by the end, he said one sentence I will never forget. "Diane, they just made the biggest mistake of their lives, and they don't even know it yet." My second call was to a former intelligence colleague, Renee, who now worked in corporate investigations. I asked her to quietly look into Patricia's business. Something told me that a woman who could throw a homeless mother and child into the snow on Christmas Eve wasn't exactly playing fair in other parts of her life either. I was right. By the next morning, Renee had already found irregularities. Patricia's company, the one that funded the family's entire lifestyle, had been hiding financial problems. Unpaid taxes. Questionable transfers. The kind of information that, if it reached the wrong hands, could destroy everything Patricia had built her identity around. I didn't plan to destroy anyone out of hatred. I'm not that kind of person. But I do believe in consequences. And I believe that people who hurt children should learn, clearly and permanently, that actions have a price. Christmas Day came and went quietly. I let Emily rest. I let Sophie play with the toys I kept in my closet from Emily's own childhood. I didn't tell my daughter what I was planning, not yet. She had been through enough. She needed peace before she needed a plan. But behind the scenes, I was building one. Over the next 2 weeks, James helped Emily file for full custody protection and outlined a strong legal case, using the fact that Brandon and Patricia had put a minor child out in freezing temperatures with no warning and no shelter arranged. In most states, that alone raises serious questions about a parent's judgment, especially when there's already evidence of instability, like an affair and abandonment. Meanwhile, Renee's research deepened. Patricia's company was preparing for a major investor meeting, the kind that could bring in millions of dollars in new funding. If the financial irregularities came out at the wrong time, it wouldn't just embarrass her. It would collapse the deal entirely. I want to be clear about something. I never fabricated a single piece of evidence. I never lied. Every document, every discrepancy Renee found, was real. All I did was decide when the truth would come out and who would be standing there when it did. Brandon, for his part, tried calling Emily multiple times, claiming he missed his daughter and wanted to talk things through. Emily, stronger than I had ever seen her, didn't answer a single call. She was done being someone's convenient option. I trained soldiers to understand one core truth. The moment you underestimate your opponent is the moment you lose. Brandon and Patricia had underestimated us completely. They assumed a grieving mother and a heartbroken daughter would simply disappear quietly into the cold, exactly like they had been thrown out. They had no idea who they were dealing with. 3 weeks after Christmas, Patricia's company held its investor meeting downtown. High-rise conference room, expensive suits, big promises about growth and stability. What Patricia didn't know was that Renee had already anonymously and legally forwarded the financial discrepancies to the investment firm's due diligence team days earlier, exactly as company compliance policy requires when fraud is suspected. This wasn't sabotage. This was transparency, the very thing Patricia had always claimed to value in business, right up until it exposed her. Halfway through her polished presentation, one investor calmly asked about the unpaid taxes and the unusual fund transfers flagged in the report they had received. The room went silent. Patricia's confident smile cracked for just a second, but in business, a second is all it takes. The meeting ended early. The investment deal collapsed that same afternoon. At the same time, across town, Emily's custody hearing took place. James presented the facts plainly. A father who abandoned his responsibilities for an affair, a grandmother who evicted a toddler into freezing weather, and a mother who had done nothing but sacrifice for her child's safety and stability. The judge didn't need convincing for long. Emily was granted full physical custody, with supervised visitation only for Brandon, pending a full evaluation of his stability and intentions. 2 devastating losses in one single day for the family that thought they held all the power. Not through revenge fueled by hatred, but through truth finally catching up to consequences that had been avoided for far too long. A few days later, Brandon showed up at my house. Alone. No Vanessa. No mother standing behind him with cold judgment in her eyes. Just a man who finally understood what he had lost. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. "Diane, please," he said, his voice cracking. "I made a mistake. I want to fix things with Emily. I want to see my daughter." I looked at him for a long moment before I answered. "You didn't make a mistake, Brandon. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. What you did was a choice. You chose someone else over your family. Your mother chose cruelty over her own granddaughter's safety. Choices have consequences. This is yours. He asked if Emily would ever forgive him. I told him the truth. That's not up to me. But I'll tell you this. She doesn't need you anymore. She has family that will never, ever put her out in the cold. He left without another word. I watched him walk to his car, shoulders low, finally understanding the weight of what Christmas Eve had cost him. Spring came, and with it, a new chapter for Emily and Sophie. Emily moved into a small apartment near my base, close enough that Sophie could visit her grandmother whenever she wanted. Emily enrolled in night classes to finish the nursing degree she had paused years earlier for a marriage that had never truly valued her. Patricia's business never fully recovered from the collapsed investment deal. She lost significant control of the company within the year, forced out by the very board members she had once dismissed as unimportant. Brandon, humbled and alone, eventually moved to a smaller apartment across town, working hard to prove, slowly and consistently, that he deserved a real relationship with his daughter, not through big gestures, but through simple, everyday reliability. As for me, I returned to my post with a quiet strength I hadn't felt in years. Being a soldier taught me discipline. Being a mother taught me love. But that Christmas Eve taught me something else entirely, that protecting your family isn't always about fighting with your fists. Sometimes it's about staying calm, staying smart, and letting the truth do the fighting for you. I think about that freezing night often. The image of my daughter standing on my doorstep, holding her little girl, betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect her. It would have been easy to feel only anger. It would have been easy to want to destroy Brandon and Patricia out of pure hatred. But that's not what justice is. Justice isn't about causing pain for the sake of pain. It's about making sure the truth finally has consequences and making sure the people who were wronged finally have peace. If there's one thing I want you to take from this story, it's this. Never underestimate a mother's love, and never assume kindness is weakness. Some of the calmest people you'll ever meet are also the strongest, because they've learned that real power doesn't need to shout. It simply waits, prepares, and acts exactly when it matters most. To anyone out there who has been thrown out into the cold, literally or emotionally, by people who are supposed to love you, hold on. Your storm may be the very thing that reveals who truly stands beside you. And when the truth finally comes out, it always does, you'll be standing stronger than ever before. That Christmas Eve, my daughter thought she had lost everything. In truth, she had just been given the chance to build something far better, a life free of people who never deserved her in the first place.